What is up, guys, and welcome back to the channel. Now we're going to be doing some renovation work here on this bedroom I'm fixing up. I just put down some nice wood floor. I went ahead and cut up the wall base, and as you can see behind me, I got a big gap on one side of that wall base. Now that's more than likely due to the fact that this house was framed crooked. So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys resolutions of how to fix wall base on sloped floors. So let's go ahead and fix this wall base. Okay, here's the situation at hand. On the left-hand side of the room, that wall base is sitting nice and flat on the floor. And as you come here to the right-hand side of the corner, there's about a 1-inch gap between the wall base and the floor. I believe I know what the situation is going on here. So I got two different directions of floor joists in this room. So from this point on over here, you got floor joists going this way. And then from this point, going to the front of the room, I got floor joists going over here to the bay window. So they changed direction, so it's probably one major factor of why this room is doing that. But anyhow, I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys how to fix this. Now, there is some different options of what you can do. You can try to put some quarter round on the bottom of the wall base to try and hide that. But that being 1 inch right there, that's gonna be very tough to hide. Yeah, that's exactly 1 inch right there. I can't recall how tall that quarter round is, but I guess you can try and run as best you can and maybe caulk the top. It's up to you. I'm not a fan of quarter round. I'm not gonna take that route. Now, another possible option is you could probably splice the wall base right here with the correct angles in position and then make the right angle cut right there on the corner of the wall. You could do that. Now, even though there's gonna be a bed or some furniture in this room, you could hide it quite easily, but we're not gonna go ahead and take that route. Now, another thing that you could do is run some masking tape right along the bottom of this base right here, and you can probably take some caulking tools and try and caulk as best you can, but I don't think that's gonna turn out right, especially if you got a 1-inch gap right there. That's just gonna turn out nasty. Now, the route we are gonna take is we're gonna basically be keeping the top edge line right here, because that's where your eyes will follow in this room. So what we're gonna be doing is we're gonna be taking some measurements of the gap right there, and we're gonna be cutting the bottom of this base right here in order to make up for this gap that's on this side of the room. And I'm gonna go and show you guys how to do this. You're preferably gonna use a table saw. I do not recommend a jigsaw or a bandsaw, any of those methods, because there's gonna be some sloppy cuts. The table saw is gonna give you a nice even cut once you get started. So let me go ahead and show you guys how we're gonna fix this situation. So the first thing you wanna do is measure the tallest point of the gap, which is this corner. And I'm coming up with just shy of 1 inch. So let's just call it 15/16 right now. Now, as you can see before, this gap is not all the way across the room. So whenever the wall base starts touching the floor right here, we're gonna come over in this section and we're gonna mark it. So I'm gonna put a pencil mark right there. So let's go ahead and do that. So let's go ahead and put a pencil mark right there where it starts touching the floor. Okay, so now that I got a mark, I'm gonna go ahead and take the wall base and just pull it up. I did not nail this. Basically, it's just free floating right now. So let me go ahead and pull this wall base off the wall right now. Okay, so now that the wall base is off the wall, I'm gonna go ahead and take my tape measure and measure on the bottom where that mark is at. So we're gonna measure 15/16 and make a mark right there. Okay, so on the left-hand side of this wall base piece, we're gonna be cutting off 15/16 off the bottom. So I've already made a few reference points of 15/16 on the bottom. So I'm gonna take a straight edge, go from the center point, and go all the way to the left-hand side, and we'll mark that up. So the mark that we made earlier, where the wall base stops touching the floor, we're gonna go ahead and taper it. So 15/16, and we're gonna make a slight angle all the way to the bottom edge of the right-hand side of the wall base right there. So we'll take a straight edge and mark that. Now, as you can see here on the right side of the base, I started my line right here on the bottom edge, As you can see, it is tapering upwards to the 15/16 mark, which is right there. There's our middle mark right there where it starts touching the floor. And then from here all the way to left-hand side, that's a full 15/16 straight. So on the table saw, I'm gonna set the fence to cut 15/16 off. And then from the point where it stops touching the floor, all the way to the right-hand side on this corner, I'm gonna have to freehand cut this on the table saw, being very, very careful. So let's go ahead and get that table saw set up and cut this wall base piece. All right, and here's the wall base piece, finally cut up on the table saw. And the piece that's scrap on the bottom, as you can see, that bottom piece basically just tapers down into nothing the further we get down there, and that's what we want. So let's go ahead and dust off this wall base piece and see how it fits in the wall, and hopefully we have a tight fitment. Okay guys, the modified wall base is all cut in the bottom, put in position, and it's looking really good. No major gap on that right hand side, and that hugs the floor quite well. I'm very impressed. Now, as you'll notice here on the left hand side, you see the corresponding wall base piece. It just doesn't match the height. We're basically gonna match this height right here and cut the bottom off of this piece right here. So let's go ahead and mark the bottom of this wall base at 15/16 and run this on the table saw so we can match the profile that we just modified. Okay, that wall base butts up perfectly with our first modified wall base piece. Height is dead on. I'm pretty happy with that. And there's the piece right there. And we do have another situation that we're gonna resolve with the wall base not contacting the floor. As you can see, this bay window, there is a gap right here. So we're gonna basically take a measurement. So essentially the same theory as before. We're gonna take a measurement from the bottom of this base to the floor and see what the height is. And then wherever it starts touching the floor, we're gonna put a mark on the bottom of the base right here. So let's go ahead and start taking some measurements, mark up the wall base, and we'll take this thing on the table saw and modify it. Okay, went ahead and marked up this wall base piece. And this line right here indicates where the wall base touches the floor. And we were off by 7/16. So I measured up from the bottom to this line, 7/16. Drew it straight across over to the right hand side. And then basically took the point where it touches the floor and tapers off to the bottom corner right there. So let's go ahead and take this on the table saw and make the cuts. Modified wall base piece turned out pretty good. No more major gap on the bottom. And the next step, we need to go ahead and take this piece and that piece right there and match the exact height of what this modified wall base piece is. So let's go ahead and take some measurements, cut these last two pieces, and we should be good to go. finished result of the wall base. Everything is nailed to place, caulked, touch-up paint is applied, and that base is looking pretty good, given the imperfections we have with the floor. We're mostly meeting the contours of that bottom floor right there. A little bit of gaps right there by the bay window, but I can live with that. So let me go ahead and show you what's going on over here. Okay, looking at this bay window area right here, this isn't exactly a focal point. When you look into the room, there is a small gap on the bottom right there. You could put a quarter round, but I'm not a fan of quarter rounds, so I'm gonna leave that open as is. It's not too important, but the main thing is we got that gap taken care of. Now, if we did want to fix this gap right here, you're gonna have to get real good at doing a freehand cut on the table saw. You see how it kind of touches right there in the corner and it jogs downwards and goes back up, kind of like a happy face. So what you'd have to do is measure this gap right here. I'm guessing it's what, a 1/4 inch, maybe 3/16. I'm not exactly sure on my tape with me. And you would have to measure 3/16 on each corner, and you'd have to basically just freehand that thing on the table saw. It might not turn out too well because you have to freehand that. Plus on top of that, whatever dimension you have down here, you'd have to come over on this side and you'd have to chop it down on this side right here. This side's already short enough as it is because we had to take 1 inch off the bottom in order to accommodate for that corner right there, which was 1 inch off. But other than that, I think it turned out pretty well. Let me know what you guys think of this. But other than that, given the framing imperfections of this house, I think it turned out pretty good, along with this wood floor, which is hickory, by the way. And this is gonna be a fantastic bedroom. Now let me go ahead and show you guys what I did downstairs. It's actually in the same area where this bay window's at. So let me go ahead and take you downstairs into the living room. Okay, down here in the living room, I renovated this space a few years ago. Obviously it has different species of wood here. But anyways, if I didn't point this out, you wouldn't notice. But as you can see, the wall base is normal height right here. It actually tapers down a little bit on the bottom side to meet it on that corner right there. But everything is level on the top. I can't remember how much I had to cut off. Maybe it was a 1/4 inch, maybe it was 3/8. But if I didn't point it out, you wouldn't notice. But just wanted to give you another example of what I had to do in the same space, 1 floor below here on the first floor. Had to manipulate the floor line. Obviously it's lower in that point and it's a little higher on that side. But if I didn't point this out to anyone, you wouldn't notice. But other than that, I think it turned out pretty phenomenal. Well, all right, guys, that about wraps up today's video on how to resolve wall base issues when the floor slopes away from the wall base. Hope to explain everything thoroughly and clearly. And as always, if you have any questions, feel free to comment below and I'll do the best I can to answer all questions. Now, the only thing left you have to do in this room is go ahead and move all the furniture back in position. And we're gonna go ahead and start work on the second bedroom. Fingers crossed that we don't have any framing issues that we did in this room. Now, if you guys like this video, please give me a thumbs up. For channel updates, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching and have a fantastic day.